Right now, if your car is running, a series of controlled explosions is happening just a few inches from your legs. Hundreds of them every second. Fire, pressure, and genuine violence, repeating faster than you can blink. And yet you feel almost nothing, just a smooth, steady hum. So how does a metal box turn raw explosions into that effortless glide down the road? At its heart, a car engine has just one job: to turn burning fuel into spinning motion. And it does that with a surprisingly simple part, the piston. A piston is a snug metal plug that slides up and down inside a sealed tube called a cylinder. Above the piston sits a small pocket, the combustion chamber, where fuel and air are burned. Below it, the piston connects through a sturdy rod to the crankshaft, a cranked metal shaft that converts the piston's straight up and down motion into round and round rotation, exactly like your legs pumping the pedals of a bicycle. Everything an engine does comes down to this: push that piston down hard over and over and harvest the spin. To do it cleanly and repeatedly, the engine runs a precise four-step routine known as the four-stroke cycle. Stroke 1 is intake. The piston slides down the cylinder, and as it drops, it enlarges the empty space above it, creating a partial vacuum. At the top of the chamber, an intake valve swings open, and the outside air at normal atmospheric pressure comes rushing in to fill that low-pressure void, dragging a fine mist of fuel along with it. In a fraction of a second, the cylinder is filled with a precisely measured mixture of air and vaporized gasoline, primed and ready to burn. Then the intake valve snaps firmly shut, sealing the chamber airtight. Stroke 2 is compression. Now the piston reverses direction and climbs back up, but this time every valve is closed, so the trapped air and fuel have absolutely nowhere to escape. The mixture is squeezed into a tiny fraction of its original volume, packed tighter and tighter until it is dense, hot, and straining with stored energy. This squeeze matters enormously. The harder you compress the mixture before you light it, the more force you can wring out of it afterward. A tightly packed charge is a far more powerful charge, which is exactly why performance engines run such high compression. Stroke 3 is the power stroke, and it is the only one of the four that actually does useful work. Just as the piston reaches the very top and the mixture is at maximum pressure, the spark plug fires. A tiny electric spark ignites the charge, and it erupts, burning explosively and spiking to temperatures around 2,500 degrees Celsius. The rapidly expanding gas slams the piston downward with tremendous force, and that violent shove travels through the connecting rod into the crankshaft, giving it a hard, driving kick of rotation. This single instant is where all of the engine's power is actually born. Every other stroke merely sets it up or cleans up after it. A diesel engine does the same thing with one twist. It has no spark plug at all. Instead, it squeezes the air so violently hard that the air alone becomes hot enough to ignite the fuel the moment it is injected, firing on pure pressure. Stroke 4 is exhaust. The burnt gases have already surrendered their energy, and now they are simply waste, hot and spent, and in the way. The piston rises one final time, the exhaust valve opens, and the piston sweeps the leftover fumes out of the cylinder and off into the exhaust pipe. As it reaches the top, the exhaust valve closes, the intake valve opens once more, and the entire cycle begins again from the beginning. Intake, compression, power, exhaust, repeating thousands of times every minute in perfectly timed order. None of this would work without flawless timing, and that timing comes from a part called the camshaft. As the crankshaft spins, it drives the camshaft through a belt or chain, and the camshaft is studded with egg-shaped lobes. Each lobe presses down on a valve at precisely the right moment, nudging it open and then letting it snap shut. So the intake and exhaust valves open and close in perfect sync with the pistons below. Get that timing wrong by even a fraction, and a rising piston can slam into a valve that is still open and destroy the engine from the inside. But this raises a problem. Only one stroke in 4 actually pushes. The other 3, intake, compression, and exhaust, all consume energy rather than produce it. A single lonely cylinder would lurch violently, fire, then coast, shaking the entire car apart. So engineers bolt several cylinders together and stagger their timing, so the power strokes never all happen at once. While one cylinder is firing, another is compressing, a third is breathing in, and a fourth is pushing its exhaust out. Their pulses overlap and blend together, and a heavy spinning disc called the flywheel irons out whatever roughness is left. That is how a string of separate, violent explosions melts into one continuous, silky rotation at the wheels. And all of this happens astonishingly fast. Cruising on the highway, each cylinder can fire roughly 25 times every single second. Yet here is the twist that surprises almost everyone. For all that fire and fury, the engine is shockingly inefficient. Only about 25 to 30% of the energy locked inside your fuel ever becomes actual motion. The rest, very nearly 2/3 of it, escapes uselessly as heat, roaring out of the exhaust pipe and bleeding away through the radiator. In a strange sense, your engine is less a power machine and more a very elaborate heater that just happens to spin the wheels with whatever scraps are left over. That is precisely why engineers fight so hard for every extra percent of efficiency, and why hybrids and electric motors are so appealing. So the next time you pull onto the road and the engine settles into that calm, steady purr, remember what is truly happening beneath the hood. Hundreds of tiny, deliberate explosions every second, each one triggered at exactly the right instant. Each piston shoved down and lifted back up in a relentless four-step dance. Intake, compression, power, exhaust, over and over, all of it woven together by a spinning crankshaft into the smooth, quiet motion you barely even notice. Subscribe for more of the hidden engineering that quietly moves the world around you.